I've had 2 directors tell me that they thought I should lose 10 pounds. Wow. And I've always been pretty thin. Also, it's a up thing to say to somebody.
It is.
Okay?
Completely.
I mean, have you heard this thing that Emma Thompson, she said I would just really not ever diet.
All right, so you know who's with us this morning to help us get moving. We have fitness expert Tracy Anderson.
Tracy Anderson.
Tracy Anderson.
I'm so grateful to her.
Okay. So I'm going to launch into these beautiful questions. What would you call the pillars of your wellness practice? All of these things that you're doing, there's so many different modes. Like I imagine writing is a different mode than acting, than directing. It's a lot of modes. So what are these pillars of Maggie's well-being?
I do think you're right, that it's different depending on what I'm doing or what I'm focusing on. Like, I've been thinking, I feel so much better when I exercise consistently,
Right.
you know, and as you say, I've been doing your workout for over a decade, probably 15 years. Like, I love to go to class. I know the ladies in there. It's super hot. It's like I have my way. I kind of have my spot, although I'm pretty chill. Like, if someone takes my spot, it's okay.
She's kind.
But
Everyone loves you at the gym. Like, that was one of the things when I was like, I just would love to sit down with Maggie because everyone loves you. And every client that I have at some point or another, it seems like I get a lot of them coming up and being like, yeah, like you said, this person took my spot, or this person, this person.
Yeah.
And everyone's always like, Maggie is the nicest, kindest, most motivating individual.
Working out puts you in a good mood.
Yeah,
like, sometimes I say that to
exactly.
my kids when I'm like, I need to go work out. And they're like, oh, Mama, no. And I'll say, it's going to put me in a good mood.
Yeah.
When I was cutting The Lost Daughter, which like shocked me how not physical it is. Mm-hmm. My husband said to me before I started cutting, he was like, well, you're not going to have to be there all the time. He said, directors don't sit there all the time in a cutting room. They come in, they look at cuts. And I realized maybe he'll be like that if he directs, but he's never directed. He didn't know.
Right.
And in fact, with my editor and the process we had, like, I sat there
You were like, I'm there every second.
I was there every second.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe how sedentary my life was. And plus it was COVID, so I wasn't going to the gym, to your gym.
Right.
And I didn't have a set up workout situation because I had just been shooting in Greece.
Right.
So that was
Right.
probably like the least I've moved in a long time. And I found it hard. I found it weird. I started to walk from Brooklyn to the West Village to the editing suite. Because it was deep COVID. It was like pre-vaccine.
Right.
And so I wasn't even taking taxis. I wasn't on the train. That I'm still sort of sorting out. I think in regular times, that again would be like writing. Like I would work out early.
Right.
Then go straight to the editing suite.
Right.
But I don't know what to do about when I'm actually on set. I think something has to give. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know,
well, why can't we just pop-ups? Wherever Maggie directs a movie, there will be a pop-up. There will be a Tracy Anderson pop-up. It won't be pretty.
Yeah. But remember, like, I mean, think about it on The Lost Daughter. If we'd had a Tracy Anderson pop-up, it would have been Olivia, Jesse, Dakota, Dagmar.
Oh, that would have been amazing. Oh, my gosh. So,
YDP.
first of all, that would have been, like, so dreamy. But the lead character in it.
Olivia?
Olivia.
Yeah.
There is something about her that is so sensual and incredible. Her.
That's delicious.
It's good. Which one? The salad? It's all.
Both of them.
Yeah. There's something about her physicality that is so special. Like
Olivia,
deep,
yes.
And like, I mean, I don't know. I loved that film so much, but I have to say that I'm not the only person to tell you this, but when the child was lost, I was almost like, I love Maggie and I want to watch this so badly, but if that child is gone, I can't. I had such a difficult time with that moment, but then I'm so glad of course.
Like we play with that, but feelings around children being lost or whatever, all the complicated feelings we have, that happens all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
And I see it too, though. One of the things I loved is like so many women have so much pressure to be this perfect parent or these relationships. They've predetermined that my relationship with my child is going to be perfect. I'm sure you keep your relationship really tight and all of the things, but watching this imperfect, relationship and representation of that motherhood is not always what you think or what you set out, and the deep, somatic experiences that live in us, when things are imperfect. Like, I loved all of that. I thought it was all so vital and important. But we could also see so much in her acting, like in the truth of every moment of her physicality was just so spot on.
Yeah.
Like her feeling, you could feel all the feels with her.
In her body.
In her body.
I know. I had a woman stop me in a store the other day and say, like, Olivia's body in that movie, she said, to see a body, this sensual, gorgeous body that looks like a real human being, that isn't utterly controlled, which is what we're used to seeing, was it like really moved her. And I agree. There's something when I see, and that's something nice about going to class. Yeah. When you see like real bodies of women our age, human, working hard, it's, to me, it's like friendly. It's the opposite of competitive. It's really inclusive, and I love that.
I love that I love that that's what you feel. I was just talking to this doctor this morning, this amazing like preventative doctor that's trying to do all of, he wants to change the system of health, right? And I was telling him, I was like, sadly, you want to go through just like the health lens. Like, I want you to be healthier, right? So I'm going to help you with all these things to be healthier. But I've noticed with my audience for many years, if you want to motivate them to become healthier, and that is your objective, most of them, you have to speak to the vanity vein. Like, most of it comes from the competitive nature. It is just a self-imposed competition of where do they sit and exist in the lineup of the standard of beauty. Yeah. And if doing something healthier for themselves will make them more beautiful, then they'll do it. Yeah. If it'll like
I feel
put
that.
them up.
I mean, I understand. Right. I understand.
Right. But I was like, listen, this is all great, but you're going to miss the opportunity for a huge audience here if you've got to like let them know that key to being more beautiful is also knowing yourself. And I think that's what the woman that stopped you about Olivia, she sees Olivia loves her. I don't know Olivia. Sorry, Olivia. I could be totally wrong. But it appears that Olivia trusts herself.
Well, she's a genius. Yeah, I mean,
clearly.
But she is. She's a genius. I can't speak for how she feels about her body, but or even her artistic genius, but I know she's a genius.
She's a genius. Yeah. Well, we need to learn from Olivia, because if we could get more women like that to walk into their spaces, their feelings, we need a master class with you and Olivia.
No, I mean, here's the thing. I think probably what initially motivated me to start doing your workout was wanting to look better. Right. And probably some kind of expectation on myself, which was insane, to be honest. I mean, I think that was probably the initial motivation. Right. The older I get, the gentler I am on myself. Yeah. I mean, I find like only recently, really, sometimes I'll look at myself, like my body, and I'll be like, I look good. It's okay. I look fine.
You look amazing.
You know what I mean, though? Like, I'm not going like, oh my God, what is this?
Analyzing.
And I mean, sometimes I do. Yeah, sometimes I do. I also now have these like moments of like the clouds clearing where I'm just like, I look good. I look fine. Yeah. I'm happy with this. You know? And it's just like gentler on myself.
I love that. I'm doing the same thing, by the way, where I'm like, okay, because things change. Yeah. And sometimes they change in like clumps, and I'm here to like, and sometimes too with like, social media and all these things, people DM me or whatever, and they're like, what is your foundation? I'm like, you have the same foundation. Swipe right. Swipe right, and you have the same exact foundation. It's fabulous. It's totally called Paris. It's like, that's the foundation. But I did a terrible thing to my body for so many years. Everyone said I would regret it. My mom, the most. But I went to the tanning bed a horrific amount of times. Like, horrific. Tan. And
what does it do to you? I've actually never done it.
You are so smart. Like, it's just you lay in a bed of radioactive lights, like to burn your skin to become tan. I mean, it's terrible. It's horrible.
It's like laying out in the sun.
It's 10 times worse than laying out in the sun. But they used to tell us that it was better when I was in high school. Anyway, whatever. I mean, in Indiana, they told us it was better. Let's face it.
Right.
But I was addicted to it in some way. And now I'm like, wow, like on my skin, like the sun damage or the loss of, collagen. I'm like, you can't drink enough collagen. You can't do these things. Like at some point we have to be gentle with ourselves and also be honest about where we went. I'm like, Tracy Anderson, you went to the tanning bed.
Right.
What did you expect? Did you really and you're not going to back out of this. So you have to kind of just be kind, make it the best you can.
Yeah.
Be happy it's still here. And thank goodness no skin cancer, up until, thank goodness, but you know what I mean? It's like, I like that approach of people looking at themselves. They're so hard, and so many women spend so much time dreaming about being in somebody else's body or dreaming that their body is capable of becoming something that it was never meant to become.
Yeah. This is what I mean about this thing this woman said to me about the lost daughter. Like, when I'm around people who look human and healthy and like they care about themselves, but human, it makes me feel good. You know what I mean? I feel like, oh, you're like me,
Yeah.
But have you heard this thing that Emma Thompson, someone asked her, what would you tell your younger self?
Yeah.
And she said, I would just really not ever diet. Mm-hmm. She's like,
and she's beautiful.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
Yeah.
She's like, it oppressed me. Mm-hmm. I understand that.
Yeah.
And to hear Emma Thompson, this queen, say that, it had an effect on me. I was like, yeah. I mean, and not to say that that's what's right for everybody at all. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, it's oppressed me too.
If you want to live longer and everything has to be this, and that.
I do. I want to live longer.
I know. I want to live longer too, but there's balance. My grandmother lived to be 96. She smoked a pack of cigarettes a day.
Right,
so
exactly.
There is something about
I know.
that security of Emma Thompson knows what is right for her, what is right for her body.
Well, for me, when I work out, I feel better. Like, I just feel good. I feel happy.
Yeah.
Even if, and I said this too when you came to my party that time, I was like, even if my body doesn't look that different, I mean, no, it does.
Right.
But even if it's not, I skipped Tuesday and Wednesday or whatever, and Thursday I feel like worse about myself or something.
Right.
Not really because my body has changed.
Right.
Not at all. But just because it makes me feel good to do it. But I find if I get too fussy about what I eat and cleanse or whatever, it makes me anxious.
Yeah.
And as soon as I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to cleanse. I'm going to whatever.
Right.
Immediately, my life becomes more anxious.
Yeah. So how would you describe your relationship to your physicality when you first explored acting, and how has it changed over the years? Because talking about all these physical things and talk about an industry that has put so much pressure on your physical body.
Oh, yeah. When I first started auditioning and acting and stuff, it was a time when you could say all sorts of crazy things to actresses. Yeah. I've had 2 directors tell me that they thought I should lose 10 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've always been pretty thin.
Yeah, I mean, you're
10 pounds is for that's
a lot.
Also, it's a f***ed up thing to say to somebody.
It is.
Okay?
Completely.
I mean,
yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
It only occurred to me just now that 2 different directors said that to me.
Yeah.
I think that both of them said it as a kind of manipulation. They were trying to make me feel something, which they managed to do. Mm-hmm. But still, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
And I was being told all the time, you're not pretty enough, you're not sexy enough. Can you sex it up a little? And
the secretary, has anyone
that
seen
would be
Deuce or any of these things?
But this was I would wear something I thought was sexy and go to an audition and then get that note.
Note.
Yeah.
Or women will take those, carry them, and then stop exercising because they'll say, somebody told me I'm not this in my body or I'm not that in my body. Did they ever get that deep? Or how did you process that physically and get it out of your system? Or did it weigh on you for years?
I didn't really grow up exercising very much. Mm-hmm. I was on the swim team when I was in junior high. I was always a really good swimmer. Mm-hmm. But I didn't have, my brother played soccer, so he was always working out, and I never really did. When I went to college, and so that because of that, I wasn't, I think, really in touch with, I'd be like, why is this happening? Why do I feel good about myself today? And 20 minutes later feel terrible about myself, because it's all just imaginary.
Yeah.
If you're not in touch with your body.
Absolutely.
Then when I was 19 and I was going to college in New York, my aunt, who was only, 18 years older than me, because my dad had a lot of siblings, she was a dancer, is a dancer, and she invited me to go to Jiva Mukti with her.
Oh, wow.
Like the old Jiva Mukti. This must have been like 96 or something.
Yeah, it was like...
Yeah. And it was like in an old loft, not the fancy Jiva Mukti.
Okay.
But before that.
Okay.
And we go and we start doing yoga.
Right.
And I had never been in touch with my body like that.
Yeah.
And I got like obsessed with yoga.
Yeah.
The high, the heat.
Yeah.
I'm like a little addicted to the heat
Because
too.
you like to connect.
I mean,
Your brain, you're smart. That's the thing is your brain
Yeah.
is like, it gets... Your thermoregulating system immediately is like, boom, it's on and it's connecting more things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I like the kind of anthemic, like something's happening. Like I'm different when I walked out of this room than when I walked into it. And so that was when I started to get really physical. And I was like, wow, I feel so much better. And so in a way, like when these guys said this to me, I had like you say, I had a connection to my body. I had like a sense of myself. It did hurt, and I mean, I'm remembering it now.
Yeah.
It obviously didn't like completely go away, and I think when I was younger, my goal was to be as thin as possible, and that was the ideal. But I wasn't ever able to like
Do the things to get there. That was exactly my story as a dancer.
or like to get so far over there. Like I was like, okay, but I still do want to have a little something to eat. I still, I could never.
I could never get there.
But I still think that was the goal for a long time, and I just wasn't willing to sacrifice all that much. I think, and I thank goodness for that.
These things, these nuances that happen, especially to women, I think too, throughout the years, like those, like, a director so easily saying to you, presumably male, saying to you, like, you need to lose 10 pounds or you're not sexy enough for this or that. That today, people can just go on, which we were talking about a little bit before, they can just go on to your Instagram page and criticize you so openly all over the place. But this is something that's always been happening. I had this conversation with somebody the other day where it's like, I don't like this for kids because they know if they're not invited to something. I was like, we knew if we weren't invited to something Monday at school.
Yeah,
like, I knew if all my friends slept over at somebody's house and I wasn't invited Monday. I just didn't know that moment, but I knew in a delayed way, right? So these things have always been happening, but I think that the advice of how you don't let it bring you down or you don't own their remarks or opinions.
I think my response at the time was just to like be really fierce, like fuck that or whatever. In order to get through it.
Right.
And then how much of that was put on, I mean, some of it was certainly put on.
Yeah, the rest you left on my floor in sweat.
The
sexiest sweat I've ever seen. I love how, because I'm interested in like the process of the working with fellow actors, especially when the script requires a level of physical vulnerability, because I think that for me, getting people to be physically vulnerable with themselves to try a lot of different abstract movements or to move their hips in a certain way or unlock their spine and all of that.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. And I think as a director, what does that process look like for you?
That's such an interesting question, because as you put it that way, I think like, yes, sometimes in your class, there's some gorgeous trainer moving her hips in some way that, like, probably usually I wouldn't move my hips. Yeah. And I'm like, fuck it, okay, let's do it. And like I say, all the other women around me are doing the same thing. And how freeing and great that is.
And safe.
Yeah.
It's safe. It's like, we're doing this.
Well, and also, can we just talk about, I'll answer your question, but the dancing element is such a gift because, of course, the muscle stuff, and there are moments where you're certainly moving your body in ways that you definitely wouldn't. But dancing has so much attached to it, both like the kind of embarrassing side of it and then also the extreme pleasure. And I've often thought, because I'm not like a great dancer or anything.
I'm a good dancer.
But I mean,
you
like
slayed those routines early on, I gotta just say.
But
like,
the pleasure of actually dancing for a half an hour
Yeah.
or however long, really dancing all
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
dances you've learned
Yeah.
in a room full of people to like loud music, what that does to your day, I think is really notable.
When all of those women set out to learn the choreography of just even those original dances,
Yeah.
I just was so moved. I was like,
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm getting this, because in my first study, if I had, and I did this, I grouped different people, and I'm like, okay, if I'm doing the muscular structure and I let you go run because you like to run or you've been running, I'll see if I can change the imbalances that you think you feel, right? Mm-hmm. Or you are going to ride bikes and you're going to, and I found that like it's so I'm not saying that you should run and do all the things that you love. I'm saying that if you want this create balance where there's imbalance and this very like kind of lean, balanced muscular structure, and then you go and you do the same thing over and over, it disrupts the design. But the dances and the rotation, and I wasn't sure that everyone would learn that. And then there were, of course, like many jazzercise and hip-hop aerobics, you know, all these things before me, but no one like took the stop and go out of like, everything was like build upon, and now we're going to do this, and now it's a great plan, now it's build upon in the industry. And I was like, I can't have that. Like, I need people to actually learn the choreography. We're going to jump. We're going to bring the cardio up.
Yeah.
And you're going to be, like, bouncing at a club for, like, all that time. Those original dances, like, people, we still do them to this day.
It's, like, so much more fun for me than, like, running.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's active.
And it's, like, it's different, you know. You're changing things. You know, you're moving your arm here. It's like running is just very, and I know for some people, like my husband, for example, that's very meditative.
Yeah.
And
he's not going to come learn the dances. Like,
he's not. Well, he's a sick dancer.
He might, okay. Yeah. He might really like the my mode, though. It's like a lot of men are like you.
He might like the dancing, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God.
But you were asking me about supporting people in their bodies as a director. I have a couple of things to say about that. I mean, one is, and you were saying particularly in vulnerable ways, you know, I've done a lot of sex scenes in my life where I've been naked or, you know, really engaged physically with somebody else. Mm-hmm. Peter says that my husband says something really interesting about sex scenes where he's like, they're actually one of the most fake things on a movie.
Wow.
Because, of course, it isn't sex. It's pretend sex.
Right.
Whereas, in fact, you're trying to create, say, in a scene where you're full of anger, you're trying to actually create anger.
Right.
But you're not going to actually create sex.
Yeah.
So there's already,
that's
like,
so interesting.
Because I've done it, you know, all my actresses, and there were other scenes, in fact, in the movie. So all of them were engaged in some kind of intimacy when we were shooting. All of them said, like, that they felt really comforted by the fact that they knew that I had done this.
Yes.
And it's funny, I almost took that for granted. I was like, oh, yeah, I know exactly how to take care of you and protect you and keep an eye out and make sure you're safe.
Yeah.
You know, I think it can be the idea of, like, an intimacy coordinator, which is somebody who's there just to watch out for people who are doing sex scenes. That got invented on The Deuce when I was acting in it.
No way. I was like, I've never heard of an intimacy coordinator.
Oh, well, so there are always like a stunt coordinator who's there if you're going to be doing pretend violence. And, and so there was an actress on The Deuce who really helped to invent this.
So smart.
She was saying, like, it's very similar. We want to make sure our bodies are protected and that we feel taken care of. And at first, I was doing the nudity, and here's this person, you know, showing up who's like an intimacy coordinator. And at first, I was like, I'm good. Yeah. You know, like I've been doing this for 20 years, sex scene. I don't know. And I'm fine. I have all my ways. We figured out me and the costume and makeup. We figured out how we're going to protect me, and I'm good. And I've been protecting myself for 20 years.
Right, right.
But then I really saw the value. I saw the value for, like, really young actresses who who had an ally and needed an ally. And then, in fact, ultimately, in the end, she ended up being really helpful to me, too, and I was glad to have her. But on my film, we didn't have a intimacy coordinator. I was talking to my actresses about it, and they were like, we trust you. We know. And it's true. It's like when you're an actor, before there were intimacy coordinators, when you were the youngin, like the early beginner, someone would look out for you. It depends who. Sometimes it's your makeup artist. Sometimes it's the costume assistant who's running in with a bathrobe for you between each thing. Sometimes it's another actor in the scene. And then as you get more experienced, at least in my experience, I would be the one looking out. Just to make sure, like, hey, guys, someone needs to be bringing her a bathrobe in between every single take and or whatever.
Right. Well, in that film too, because there was so much that these characters were carrying, and one of the things that I found so beautiful about it was that there was something different about that film in terms of the layers deep that the physicality went for me. And this is my whole career, right? As much as, and I'm like, wow, like every little thing, like I felt it through each of their bodies, which I think is obviously such an important part of being an incredible actor. But I did just really see that in that film. Like, but maybe part of it's like just was so well cast with people who do understand how to get to that truth.
Well, and also creating a space where people are really, really free. You know, if you can be a great actor, but you're in a position where someone has told you before you've had a chance to understand the scene that the director says, when I was alone in my room imagining this scene, you started at this chair and then you walked over here and then you come sit back down here on this line. Okay, but to say that to Olivia Colman and not give her a chance to sort of feel out the room and how does she want to play it? And she's like, oh, you have a Breakfast at Tiffany's record there. I want to be looking at the records. And so to create a space where everybody actually is free to sink into what it is we're really doing, I think that's how you
created that space. And that's the thing
together.
Is that, again, I mean, not to relate it so much, but one of the reasons why I don't talk to people during the workout is like there was so much science behind like the brain connections and activity. If I am not in your space during that time, there's the music that you're listening to. You're just tracking someone, but you're tracking and you're absorbing it into your own body. You are going to end up becoming so much more powerful for yourself than if I'm like, listen, Maggie, you don't know how to lunge. I'm going to tell you how this move. There's plenty of time for conversations and development and form and reach and all of that to happen after the game. After you've had your time.
That's interesting.
Just explore yourself, right? So I think it's amazing that you create that space.
You're so right. You're like, okay, let's say you were saying, I don't know how to lunge. But I still only am going to have whatever capacity I have, right? And I find doing your workout that, it's different each week. So you'll start the program that week and you'll be like, oh my God, this lunge is killing me, and you're just doing the best you can. And then, on day 3, maybe you're looking a little more carefully and you're like, ooh, that looks really cool what she's doing. Okay, let me see if I can adjust. And
I feel like these intimacy coordinators, I feel like they're beneficial in life period, so that there are clients that I would like to schedule intimacy coordinators.
Interesting. Like, how would it help you? I know you're kidding, but what do you mean?
Almost like a therapist, because I really, really do. And I have to just commend you for being so vulnerable in so many roles, representing so many different women, and also freeing your body from, like, this is your body, but when you are going to be that vulnerable and you're going to just get naked in a scene, it's so important to our progress as women. I mean, it's so important, I find. I just see, the reason why I'm saying the intimacy coordinator for people is that I do see that so many people feel shamed about their body, feel disconnected, feel like they have to cover everything up. And I actually wrote this in a weekly newsletter a few weeks ago that, like, their assignment was like, I need you to spend at least 15 minutes with yourself naked, because no one does. We're like covering up here, covering up in your PJs. I don't know how many people like actually sleep naked with themselves or their partners, like, but I'm like, you need to spend some time, because it doesn't matter what size, shape, age. It doesn't matter if you're losing the collagen in your skin. It doesn't matter if any of it. It matters that you know it and appreciate it and can look at it, like you said, and go, I look good, or, oh, I'm noticing that.
Or like, I look okay.
I look okay. Right.
You know what I mean?
Okay, fine. Or, yes, I look okay. Okay. But then you also have to be able to go, you know what? Like, if your stomach just keeps, like, gaining weight, you can know, like, hey, I'm noticing that.
Right.
I actually have some power over that.
Right.
I don't have to go wild and freak out, but I can start, like, maybe it's half of the scone or something. You know, you
Right.
can do something better. I'm going to actually move and exercise.
Right.
But not freaking out about it. And I think too, hormonally with, I don't know, are we that far? I think I'm definitely older than you, but we're not that far.
I'm
apart.
45.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be 48 in a month. Yeah. I mean, I knew I was
Happy
older than you, but I
birthday.
wasn't sure how much. But I mean, you're still like I can like see it coming, like menopause. I'm not there. I have regular periods still, but I can see it. It's gonna come. It's gonna come. It's gonna be there. And I think like when you do move, and you do know your body, and you don't fear your body, and you are able to kind of be your own best friend too, with like that person said that or whatever.
Yeah.
That you will be able to handle things like all the hormonal shifts or the tough things in life, because
Yeah.
I've been through some really tough things. I've seen some traumatic moments, you know, and it's like when you've got yourself and you're processing it physically, you're moving through it physically, it's easier to navigate. So back to the intimacy coordinator. Like if somebody was there, like to gently let people know in a safe way, like I'm looking out for you, but like you can, you know, you can move the hips, you can take off the sports bra. Like, you know, people all with me, they're always like, cover your boobs or like lift your, and I'm like, I don't want to, I like to move like free in my body. I nursed for 8 freaking years. Like, I don't, you might associate that, but I am, this is just me moving in my body, you know?
Yeah.
So I just think that freedom, my point, that freedom and that like, I don't know, there's something great about the title, like an intimacy coordinator. I don't know. I'm really
It doesn't
on it.
sound very sexy, but I guess that's the point, you know?
That's the point.
I mean, it's not right, exactly.
Coordinating intimacy.
It's almost like it's like what it should be and what she was for me,
Yeah.
ultimately. Because at first I was a little like, I got this, okay? Like, I've been
Yeah.
doing this for 20 years. But what she ultimately was for me was like you say, she was just someone who had her eye on me, who I knew, which is, you know, to be honest, it's what I often want from a director. What I'd like to offer to the actors who I work with is just, and it's true, I do offer this to them. Like, I have my eye on you.
Yeah.
Not just in terms
I'm
of
not
intimate
missing a
stuff, but in general, like, what you're offering me, I am seeing it.
But you see people. Like, that's why you like to go into the gym with the people, or like you see another person, like you like to see truth
Yeah.
and honesty in people.
And also, I mean, it's different to like be naked on screen and to be naked in a film. That's vulnerable. And
Yeah.
in some ways, although in some ways less vulnerable because you have the freedom of fiction.
True.
You know, still your body. But I actually just in like life, I'm like you with the boobs. I'm like, I get naked in the tiny dressing
Yeah,
room.
right,
I'm
right.
just like, I don't know. I don't feel, it doesn't make me shy. I feel like there's such a nice freedom and skinny dipping and,
Yeah.
you know.
What advice would you give to people in similar careers where their bodies are linked directly to their profession?
I don't know if this is advice, but I think that humanity, the ways in which the human, meaning the real, the not totally controlled, the ways in which those aspects show up in our bodies, I think are the most beautiful.
Yeah.
And also, you know, if you think about it, like, you know how you're saying like a lot of people don't spend time with themselves naked. If you think about the parts of your own body that feel the most vulnerable
Yeah.
to you, which it might be totally out of whack with how you actually look, right?
Correct.
Objectively, but still, ooh, this feels really vulnerable to me for whatever reason. I bet that so often your lover or a lover would find those things the most beautiful because they are the most vulnerable, because they are the place that accesses you like the most directly. But don't you think that about your own lover?
But
Like,
I absolutely do.
like, ooh, like that's the place that only I
Yes.
see, you know?
100%. I cannot wait to see what you're writing and you're going to direct next. It's amazing. And you also broke a really important place for female director. I mean, to break into that and be seen and valued like that took a lot of that fighter in you that, you know?
Yeah, I think when I was younger, I just didn't even consider it an option because
Yeah.
there were so few people around
So
me
sad.
that were women that were doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of things changed around me that made it feel possible. I mean, first of all, I was playing a director on television, you know, making porn.
Right.
And
right.
I kept saying to David Simon, like, if this is someone who's it's life or death for her, right? This is like how she's going to survive. And it's about money. It's life or death over the producerial aspects of making porn. That is a very different person than it's life or death and as an artist.
Right.
Like it's life or
Yes.
death because she's a filmmaker
Yeah.
and because she's seen something has woken up in her, not about money, but about film,
Yeah.
about art. And so I think in some ways I almost like manifested it in the Deuce and then manifested it in life. And there's no question it's a better job for me. There's no question it's what I,
The directing over the acting?
oh yeah. Like
Or the directing The Lost Daughter over porn? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I only directed
I'm just
fake
kidding.
porn.
I know, I'm joking. I'm joking. Okay, can I put you in the hot seat?
Okay.
All right.
This is where I
it.
say things quickly.
It's quickly. It's quick. Favorite thing about living in New York?
Restaurants.
What's the favorite restaurant?
All of the Ignacio Matos restaurants. So like,
Okay.
I like Alto Paradiso, Corner Bar. I also really love Via Carota. I love Romans in Brooklyn. I am a
up.
foodie, and
Yeah,
and
and this is the city for it.
yeah,
Yeah. One actor you'd love to direct?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty phenomenal. Best soundtrack of all time?
I love In the Mood for Love and Talk to Her, the Almodovar.
Oh, I have not listened to either one of those.
They're good.
You know, I love music, so. Okay, go-to weeknight dinner.
Otto Lengi, you know, they have this recipe for turkey zucchini meatballs.
Ooh.
I love that one. It's really easy. Turkey zucchini meatballs, and I make like a little sort of yogurt sauce.
Last film that truly spoke to you?
Oh, okay. I just recently saw Beautiful. It's misspelled. B-U-I-T.
Okay.
UFIL, something like that. It's Javier Bardem, and
wow.
it's directed by Inarritu, and it's just such a good movie. I have Tracy's dog right here. I watched it just recently, and I was like, how did I miss this movie?
Best advice on parenting?
Oh my God, no. I can't, no, you should never give people advice on parenting.
Like, what is a core value of parenting that you have?
I think teenagers, in a way, are giving you another opportunity to kind of not make up for, but take a look at the mistakes that you made when they were little, which of course you made. And like,
I agree with
and
that.
so then I guess right now I'm thinking about really being able to go, okay, you're right, and I'm sorry, even about small things.
Yeah.
Another thing I'm thinking about is like really not putting my own worries, issues, difficulties into them.
Yeah, that's my biggest challenge. I'm a huge worrier. And so my brain tends to go to like the worst case scenario of and it literally will think about all of the dangers and all of the worst case scenarios. And then I feel like I have to verbalize a lot of them to my kids so that they look out for them. And
yeah, like how we inadvertently
Yeah.
pass these things into them. And I really don't want to do that.
no, yeah.
Yeah. And then one other thing I would say is like that I'm thinking about now is who really are my children? Like as opposed to what I imagine they are, what I wish they would be, what I fantasize they would be.
Yeah.
But like how cool it is, like who they actually are, you know?
So good. You're so smart. You're so smart. You're a genius. You're an actual genius.
No.
100%.
Olivia Colman, though, she can have that.
She's the genius. Which one of my studios is your favorite?
Tribeca is my one, right? Because it's close to
Sure.
Brooklyn where I live. That's my one. They know me. That's my vibe. I always go to the 9:30 class, and not
That's the
always.
spot.
Actually, I like to work out at 6:30 at
I'm
night.
not a morning- Really?
Yeah, because
Okay.
sometimes it just gives you that high.
Yeah. If you can get a good sleep score, then great.
I can't.
Good. I know. I love it. Your biggest source of inspiration?
Other people.
Other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Community is so important. And having good relationships and with other people. So it's really important to our health. Like,
Yeah.
we're really meant to be like really for each other.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I feel
This was so
blessed.
nice.
I only made it
do
through
our
a little
little
bit of my
cheers.
cupcakes and things like that, but you're so fascinating and amazing, and I just really everyone
This has been
loves.
so great. You have been so generous and wonderful to me. Every day I'm grateful for you. Whenever I go work out, I'm like, it really has had such a positive, nourishing effect on my life. So it is a pleasure to sit with you.
Thank you.